Hey there. So I'm Shiny. I'm currently the guild leader for the guild called Radiant, which is currently a top 2 guild in NA as of December 11th. And I kind of want to make this video just to talk about LAS and maybe some of the things that you weren't aware about LAS and can actually help you, and why I push so much for LAS to be the first SR unit you get. So just to start off, I kind of want to talk about the passive, which is what makes LAS such a great unit later on. So LAS right now is the best SR unit for damage. He is currently the best and he does the best damage. The reason for this is because of this little passive. So this passive here, basically, if you crit while you're doing an auto attack or using a skill, this is going to increase your ally's crit chance by 20% for 10 seconds. So the reason this is so important is because this allows LAS to do two things. It allows him to become a very nice damage dealer and also allows him to become a good buffer for his team. So about the part on the whole doing damage, that comes about on his second part, where for every basic auto attack, 4 basic auto attacks, you're going to leave a mark that will last for 8 seconds. So the reason that he does so much damage is because he can go ahead, take this mark, and apply it with Giga Slash. So with Giga Slash, if the enemy is marked with that Assassin's Mark on his passive, then they're going to receive 1.5 times the damage. So because of this, LAS is a very strong unit, and it's very hard to deal with him if he's fully awakened. Yeah, so essentially this is why I recommend you make him your first SR unit. It's going to do you really well. So, as for the whole thing in the future, why I consider him a good unit to be used in the future. So, a thing to keep in mind is that we're currently, as of this video, World 2 got released and the raid's still not here, but it's going to come out soon. World 2 is going to release a few characters. Specifically, it's going to give you Jhin and Lei. Jhin and Lei are considered meta changers, as in they're going to change the way you play the game. Lei is going to become the best damage leader of the game, and Jhin is going to become the helper that makes sure that she stays alive. This is going to be further emphasized when Lime comes in, and you essentially build a comp that's going to protect your Lei. The reason that LAS becomes so good is because now LAS is not your main damage dealer, he's your buffer. So in this case, you have LAS with his passive, this lovely passive that I mentioned. This is going to make sure that LAS allows you to do crit damage. So for a user like Lei, who relies a lot on using her skills, making sure that her pets basically deal the damage for her, this boost in crit chance helps a lot. So because of these two little things working together, this makes LAS a very strong unit for now and even for later. The only time the LAS falls off is going to become is gonna happen sometime during Edel's release, and that's ways away. It's not something to even consider worrying about right now. The next reason that he's so good is this skill. So this skill by itself, it's kind of useless, aside from the fact that you apply an Assassin's Mark, which just further increases your damage. But if you look at the skill being used in PvP or as an assistance, this skill is very overpowered. So what do I mean by this? I think showing an actual match helps a lot. So here's what I mean. Switching screens. So here I have a very basic PvP match going on that I recorded, and I just kind of want to show off what's going on here. This is essentially the start of the match. As we can see here, it's 2 minutes and 55 seconds. I just started the match, and I'm about to use my first skill. The first skill I'm going to use is LAS's S1 skill, that skill that we just talked about, and I'm going to drag the enemies. So by dragging, this is what I mean. I'm going to let this play. Gonna use my last S1, and now that's gonna, wow, that was loud. That's going to make it so that these enemies are all grouped in together. So just for one skill, that S1 skill, I'm now able to group the entire enemy in one spot. So why this is so good? Remember what I talked about with the passive being markier and his auto attacks and using skills in the crit chance? This is all going to be applied by hitting these 4 enemies right there. So in the ideal scenario, you have LAS now hitting the enemies and applying his passive with the crit chance. And now, as you're going to see here, I'm going to go ahead, reposition my Olivia to do the whole dash and reposition her as well. And now she's going to do that extra damage that I want her to do. And then next, I'm going to use my invulnerability to stop any upcoming damage because Rufus is pretty strong and I don't want him to hit me or apply his passive. And then I'm going to use the last S2. So by this, I pretty sure. Let me look through this. But I believe I applied the passive already from last. Yeah. So I did apply the passive from last, and now I'm using the S2 skill to basically proc the passive. And in here we can see two things happening. We see that the S2 got reset, and look at all the damage the enemy is taking. So I'm gonna use that skill again, and now you can see that two enemies are killed. So reminder that the match has only gone on for like a good 15 seconds. And in that 15-second span, I've already killed Army, and one of the other ones is coming out. Army's gonna revive, Army's gonna die again. And as we see here, it's just a matter of me waiting on my cooldowns and just getting my team to use their skills again. And all while this is happening, because of how I did my first skill, this is more about the initial rotations, and I can probably talk about that in another video. Because of my initial rotation, the enemies are all piled up in here. That pile up is going to make it so that this entire match just goes out smoothly. There's not going to be any issues because of what's currently going on. So, this is mostly why I recommend Last here. This is kind of like a short little video as to why I consider Last to be so good. It's the things that he can provide to the table and the damage he does early on and the things that he'll help the other units do in the future. It's just too immensely good to pass up. If you don't have Last and you start out the game, yeah, this is going to hurt you a bit. I wouldn't say it's a game ender. Like, it's still not as horribly bad as I'm making it sound or make it sound, but you're going to be a bit behind if you want to be like a challenger player, for example, or you want to compete against the best guilds. Not having a last is going to be very detrimental because the enemy is going to have a last and you're not going to have that last, and he's going to do a lot of damage to you. So it's just something to consider. This was a fairly short video for me, just so I can give it to people and they can understand why I like Last so much.